Watch her head posture here. Immediately goes way, way down, drooping way down. This is usually a sign of extreme shame, discomfort, something that's unpleasant. As soon as he says what happened yesterday, it just takes the wind right out of her. She had a bad day yesterday, and she really doesn't like talking about it. A lot of displeasure and discomfort here talking about yesterday. You see, she makes like a grr face, right? It's a lot of stress, just unpleasant emotion. Now, remember how I said sometimes body language contradicts spoken language, but that's not always the case. In this case, we see a big no thank you. She's nodding her head forward. That's for emphasis. So she's saying that she was really, really emphatic. No thank you. She had a lot of forceful energy, like a repulsion, like a defense, like she's exerting pressure out on them, like no, no, no. It's hyper dominant rejection of the request.
She's like, ma'am, you have to leave. I said, I just want to close my account. I'm going to get my money, and then I'll leave. I can't go through the drive-through. I'm pulling the rig.
She's being pretty honest and straightforward here. There's not a lot of head movement, not a lot of body language going on. Her gaze does shift a little bit from her left to her right, but only slightly. Something else has come into focus in the background, and she's taking a look. Again, big emphasis. I can't go through the drive-through. I'm pulling the rig. Her head is moving forward. She's forcing those words out. She's applying outward pressure, repelling and repulsing this other lady.
So she says, well, if you don't put a mask on or leave, then I'm calling the cops. I said, well, do what you have to do.
Now really watch her eyes here, just how much she just suddenly starts blinking. In this one little statement that she made, she blinks more than the whole rest of the video up until this point. And I noticed this while I was editing and exactly whenever I got here. So what I did is I've gone through and I did a screen record of iMovie to show you just in fast motion, rewinding and fast forward. You can see when just all of a sudden just flutter, 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 flutter. But for the whole first part of the video, not a lot of blinking. So what does this mean? So when you see somebody blinking their eyes this fast, just fluttering away, it means they're highly excited, energized. And that's not necessarily a good thing because in this case, whenever you're facing a threat, that means you're gearing up for the fight. That's your body's unconscious way of keeping your eyes clear, keeping your eyes wet and moist, and preparing for a fight. So even just recounting that part of the story, in reliving it, she's reliving the feeling of feeling threatened. She's, in her mind, going back through those emotions of feeling like she might have to fight or someone or something.
So she says, well, if you don't put a mask on or leave, then I'm calling the cops. I said, well, do what you have to do. There was a lot of people in the bank. They only had one teller going, so it took a while. If they had been faster, I could have been gone already.
A lot to unpack here. So you see how she's talking, she's looking down. That means she's generally unhappy about what it is she's talking about. She's displeased. I wouldn't say shamed, but it's just this negativity, pulling down, sinking feeling. And when you compare that to what she's talking about, when she says there were a lot of people at the bank that day and they only had one teller and the teller was going really, really slow, right? So in her mind, like, this displeases her because, as she said, if there had been more tellers and less people, she could have gotten away with it. She would have been out of there in time. She could have, pulled it off, going into the bank where masks are required without a mask and emerging victorious. Instead, she feels shamed because of what happened.
All of a sudden, this cop shows up and, ma'am, you gotta put your mask on.
Here again, we see a huge recall looking to the right and the blinking of the eyes as she's thinking about conflict or preparing for conflict. So it's a recollection of a high conflict moment in her life, and we can see that just in the sheer amplitude of the head movement to the right.
I said, no, I don't. It's against my civil rights. I do not have to wear a mask. There's no law that tells me I have to wear a mask.
Here she's being sincere. She truly believes what she's saying. She's staring straight ahead, making good eye contact, faces forward, being very deliberate. Her head is moving a little bit, animated with the story, but she truly believes what she's saying. Unfortunately, it is not correct.
I'm like, I'm almost up there. Let me do my business, and then I'll be gone.
One of the side effects of adrenaline is cottonmouth. So as she's retelling these stories, she's reliving all of that conflict and all of that high intensity memories. And so we see, when she licks her lips right there, that's just the effects of her adrenaline is now going as she's reliving these moments.
And he had my arm tucked in my groin, and he's like, stop resisting. I said, I'm not resisting. You're hurting my groin area.
Now, this is an example of language triggering an emotional state. So she says, he had my arm tucked into my groin area. And she looks down to point to her arm because that's what she's speaking about. But then once her head posture is down, remember, head down posture is something that's unpleasant, kind of sort of on the order of shame, but shame's not necessarily the correct word, just something that just makes you feel nasty, yucky, dirty, that kind of stuff. And so she's reliving that. So, I mean, she's being sincere here. But just the sentence led her into that feeling, and she looked down to her arm because she was speaking about it, and then that is where her head stayed.
Stop resisting. I said, I'm not resisting. You're hurting my groin area.
In my analysis of the original body cam video, I mentioned that whenever we gear up to become more reactive, when our amygdala comes online, cognitive centers shut down, and one of those centers is speech. So we tend to have trouble with speech. Our speech becomes jumbled and kind of sort of messed up and nonsensical if you couldn't print it out and expect somebody to read it coherently. And we see that here as she's reliving these memories, and she's going back into that fight or flight feeling. Those feelings are coming back up. Her amygdala is clearly coming back online here. She's going back into that fight or flight mindset, and it messes with her language right here.
Stop resisting. I said, I'm not resisting. You're hurting my groin area. While I was on the ground, I'm looking up at all the people in there. I'm like, are you serious? Not one of you people are going to stand up for me. I'm a 65-year-old woman, and this man is throwing me on the ground.
A lot to unpack here. I'm going to try and speak quickly, but we'll see how this goes. So in psychology, there's a construct called a schema, which is a learned expectation of an interaction based on certain material constructs. So for example, if you get pulled over by the police, if you are white, you generally have an expectation of how that interaction is going to go. If you are black, you have a much different expectation of what could or could not happen with this police officer. So those are schemas. Now, in a previous video, I had said that I had a feeling that she is the type of female conflict seeker who relies on this social construct of the damsel in distress to rescue them from a given situation. So there's this expectation that no man will hit a woman, no man should ever hit a woman. That's a dangerous assumption. You should always assume that it's not below a man to hit you. That's just sense, right? But there's this reliance, this gendered reliance of if I'm a woman and I push things too far, then society will rescue me. She's made it this far with that belief system, and it seems to have served her well. The one difference is I don't think she's ever been arrested. And so in this case, that expectation is invalid, but it still confuses her. She hasn't connected the dots there yet.
While I was on the ground, I'm looking up at all the people in there. I'm like, are you serious? Not one of you people are going to stand up for me. I'm a 65-year-old woman, and this man is throwing me on the ground. And everybody just kind of, wow, that was shocking. They were trying to get into my truck, and it was locked. I had some windows down because my dog was in the back. The testosterone guy, he's like, oh, you've got a dog in there? Well, you're getting a ticket for that, too. A ticket for having a dog in the car. I didn't know Galveston had some Nazi law like that. What do I know?
So in my original analysis of the body cam video, I was like, well, of fucking course she would have a dog locked in a vehicle, right? But she's also from Oregon. I've learned a little more about the case. I think she's being sincere when she says that she didn't know that Galveston had such a Nazi law. What do I know, right? Because it's one thing is for sure, she does not know a lot about Texas law to begin with. So there is some credibility to that statement. Plus, in Oregon is far, far up north. They may very well not have any kind of law or ordinance that says you can't keep living creatures locked in a car. But down here in the South and most of the southern states, it gets very hot here. You can kill a human, you can kill a baby, you can kill a dog, you can kill anything in a hot car with the key off here. It's very, very dangerous. Even with the windows cracked open, even with the windows open a significant amount, a car still becomes a heat trap in no time fast. Blah, blah, blah. That doesn't make sense. I'm not re-recording this. But anyways, she's being sincere here, I believe. And as I said before, I believe her when she says that she had no idea.
I didn't know Galveston had some Nazi law like that. What do I know?
Is your foot broken?
Yes, there's 3 broken bones on the top of my foot.
This is a sincere response, I believe. I mean, I believe her when she says she has 3 broken bones, because this is what sincere interactions look like. It's a simple question, simple answer. There's not a whole lot of talking. There's not a whole lot of theatrics, not a whole lot of ambulation or movements. It's just a simple question, simple answer. Is your foot broken? Yes, I broke my foot in 3 places. And I'm including this because she is about to go into a series of insincere statements and responses. And so the sincerity goes way down from here. So one last time, this is what she looks like when she's being sincere. And you will see the difference in just a second.
Is your foot broken?
Yes, there's 3 broken bones on the top of my foot.
Everything you went through, wouldn't it just have been easier to just put a mask on?
Did I know this guy was going to be crazy? And let me tell you, if I asked you to put a bag over your head because I'm afraid of your breath, would you do that? Where do we draw the line? I have civil rights. This whole pandemic thing is a joke. And they've got people so scared to death, so paranoid.
Do you believe it's real?
No, I do not believe it's real.
Did you notice just how incredibly quickly she answered that question when she says, no, I don't believe it's real? But whenever he asked, wouldn't it have been better to have just put a mask on? She gave that long, long, rambling answer just full of red herring and fallacy. Notice the body language is corroborating what she's saying. Her head is saying no as she is saying no. In cases where people are lying, we see conflicting body language, right? Where people say no, but their head is shaking yes, and vice versa. So she does truly believe it. And if you look, the head dropping, that goes back into that deep, dark, nasty, shameful, but not quite shame, but just icky kind of place. You can tell that it's a subject of contention for her. Her views and opinions. This is probably not the first time it's caused her grief or pain or hardship or anything like that. She has, suffered some because of her beliefs, and it comes through in that answer. That's what the body language communicates.
If you guys would do your research, there was back in, I think it was March or April of last year, Houston, all the doctors came out that were treating all the COVID people, and they were livid. They're saying, we have a cure. We have a cure for this.
Watch this. If you guys would just do your research, then blink, 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 blink. Bunch of rapid fire blinks. She's fought over this, the whole concept of the research over hydroxychloroquine and everything. All of those conflicts are coming up in her mind right then. The other thing that's interesting here is, in Houston, right? Has she forgotten where she is? She is in the Houston area. Now, Galveston is technically not Houston. However, the metroplex is very, very large. It is a continuous metroplex all the way down to the island. Somebody who lives in Texas City or somewhere on the mainland, close to Galveston Island, for all intents and purposes, it's still the Houston area. So everything she's talking about, yes, we are acutely aware of what went down with Dr. Stella Emanuel and all of the frontline doctors at the Supreme Court last summer. Believe me, Houston got that memo. We know.
You don't think that there ever was a pandemic? You don't think that...
I think it's the flu. I had it last January before it was the COVID. I was sick for 3 weeks.
So she's sincere when she says that she believes it's flu. That comes across as honest. But then if you watch, all of a sudden her body language starts changing. For the first time, we see her raise her head gets elevated, her shoulders go up. And then we see this look to the left here in just a second, where she says, I was sick for 3 weeks. And remember, sometimes the left indicates lying because that's where you're thinking and constructing. And what was she constructing when she said, I was sick for 3 weeks? That's not recollection. Recollection is to the right, and we have seen that all through this video. When she is remembering the confrontation with the police officers and everything about the bank, she's constantly looking to the right. But now, all of a sudden, right before she says that she was sick for 3 weeks, her shoulders go up, her head goes up. That is an elevation. She's getting excited and prepared. I'm reading it as deception, as lying, because otherwise it would be recollection. We would see the same patterns of recollection as before, and we just don't see that here.
Before it was the COVID. I was sick for 3 weeks. I was really exhausted. I ate a bunch of vitamins, took my vitamin D that I take every morning.
Now we're seeing more contradictory body language. Her head is shaking no as she's talking about the things that she did. I took my vitamins, I took my vitamin D, and her body is saying no.
I was really exhausted. I ate a bunch of vitamins, took my vitamin D that I take.
Don't you? I would think that like fortunately I haven't had it, but I know people that have. I mean, it would if I had it, it would make me more. Oh, I got to wear a mask. You know what I'm saying?
No.
This whole sequence kind of makes me laugh a little bit because the reporter just has a terribly worded question. Even he starts rambling. She's having difficulty following him. Frankly, so are the viewers. It's not a good question. You can see her bracing in what she prepares for where she thinks he's going, but then he has a strangely worded way of making his point. And so what you see is this stiffening posture, this elevation. She's straightening up. It's combative. It's standing at attention, and then it's just this just no, right? Like, I'm not getting into it. They're like just a blanket rejection. And it's not a sincere no. Like, there's no thought behind this. She didn't have to think about it at all. So she is very uncontemplative. It's a hollow answer. It's just a straight defense. It just means that it's a path that she doesn't really care to go down. And it's just, I roundly reject your reality and insert my own type thing.
They say that they have a warrant for your arrest.
That's not what they told me. She said wow, so they can still come and get me, huh?
Yeah, they've got. They put out a press release.
So when I called her and I said, I received no paperwork, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. And she goes, ma'am, you're not arrested. If you're arrested, you'd be in my jail.
Her being who now?
Some sergeant that
you talked to.
That I talked to at the police department.
So the body language here tells us this is the first time she's finding out that there are arrest warrants out for her. And so it takes her a second to process, and then we see this huge thing to the left, big head turn to the left as she processes the new information and what it means for her. And now we see here the information finishes processing, and then the epiphany that this means that they can still come after her. And we see her go into this attention pose. Her shoulders raise up, her head raises up, her eyes get bigger, her eyebrows go up, ready for action, attention, soldier type posture. Now watch the eyes closely here. This is how people lie. They include a lie that has a very truthy aftertaste to it. So when she says, when I called her and told her that I didn't have the paperwork, you can see her eyes are off to the right. This is her recalling true events that actually happened. But then the eyes go to the left, the head goes to the left, and she says, ma'am, if you were arrested, you'd be in my jail right now. And then the eyes continually dart left as she continues to tell her story. And notice the head shaking no whenever he asks her, I'm sorry, who is this lady? And she goes, some sergeant. So we see right here again, body language contradicting the words. And body language cannot lie. Words is where lies live, not in body language.
What are you going to turn yourself in, or what are you going to do?
She told me I was not arrested.
Body language clearly saying, no, I'm not turning myself in.
Right, but I mean, they're publicly saying they have a warrant
They're
for your
also,
arrest.
well, I don't know what to tell you. Maybe that's just to keep you off the trail of what happened. I don't know.
I can't quite decide if this is just word salad or just bad word choice, because now she's perceiving a threat. She's feeling reactionary. And remember, cognitive center shut down, so speech goes out the window. The very idea that the police would attempt to throw a reporter off the trail of what happened by publicly stating that there were warrants out for her arrest, it just does not make any sense. No cognitive sense. It's also sort of very word salady. Maybe it's a little bit of both. I don't know.
Right, but I mean, they're publicly saying they have a warrant
They're
for your
also,
arrest.
well, I don't know what to tell you. Maybe that's just to keep you off the trail of what happened. I don't know.
And so now for the rest of the video, it all sort of plays out the same way. Whenever he focuses on her wrongdoing, she deflects by bringing up the wrongdoings of others. She brings up all these examples of things that she is not doing that other people are doing. So it's all about everybody else and the things that other people have done, because as long as she's talking about someone else or anything else, she's not talking about herself. And he does try to explain the law to her, and he is correct on the law here in Texas, particularly Houston and especially in Galveston, that there is not a Texas law that forces the use of wearing a mask, but there is the law about trespassing, and they have the right to ask you to leave their business here. And if you do not, that is trespassing. That is an arrestable offense in Texas. And he does attempt to explain this to her, and she roundly rejects it and replaces it with her own beliefs. And as I said, it's fine to have your own beliefs, but if they're incorrect, they're incorrect. So,
Just last question. I mean, in every situation, hindsight's 20/20, right? And I get what you're saying. You're absolutely correct. No one in Texas has to wear a mask.
That's right.
But when you do, but a private business, they have the right, just like they have the right to say no shoes, no.
It's
shirt,
not
no
like I'm
shirt.
going in there shopping. It's, in a matter of fact, I have been all over Texas. I've been all over Texas. I have not wore a mask the entire time I've been in Texas. I walk in every grocery store. I walk in every place, and nobody says a thing to me.
If you could, and again, this is all hypothetical.
Okay, and I'm telling you, I would not change a thing. I'm not going to put a face diaper on because everyone is paranoid of something that is not real.
Even after all this, you're not going to wear one.
Sir? I am not going to wear one. I put it on in the hospital because there's sick people in there. You never know.
I just want to be very clear with you in your situation, okay? The Galveston Police Department they've sent out the body cam to every news outlet. They've sent out a press
Okay,
release
so
that
here's
says
my
there's
question.
a warrant for your arrest.
Here's my question. Why do you think they're doing that if they release the body cam? Why do you think they're doing that? Now, and I want you to think. And I had been in the bank for probably, 15 minutes or right. So all I had to do was do my business and leave.
Right. But I'm.
And it's not like I went in there shopping to buy something and they have my money.
Right.
They have my money.
Right.
And, they also, okay, another one? They also released all the people that were at the rally on, the Congress thing. Yeah.
Right.
So they released all of their information without notifying the people that they were doing that. That's against the law. And now there's a cover-up.
I know you're busy because you're trying to move everything, but thank you so much, dear. And I got it. My hat's off to you for sticking to your guns.
Right. So, I mean, overall in the interview, she is being sincere, I think, at least in a good solid 80 to 85% of it. There were some misleading statements, some incorrect statements, there were some tactics here and there. But I think this just largely comes down to somebody who is firm in what they believe, visiting a place where it doesn't apply. So, I mean, maybe on the West Coast, it's a state by state thing. Maybe largely around in the West Coast, things are this way. It's illegal to have a dog in a car here, but all of us Texans were hugely surprised that Oregon freaked out when they started allowing people to pump their own gas. Everybody here pumps their own gas, and that just seemed incredibly foreign to us that people in Oregon largely do not pump their own gas. So there is a major cultural difference between Texas and Oregon, and some of these pundits are in California. That's the subject of another video. Yeah. She's been arrested a second time by now. I'm not quite sure how, if she's ready to believe the law yet or not. It's one of these tricky things where, yes, there is no law in Texas that forces people to wear a mask. There's also not a law that protects your right to not wear one. So the absence of law at the state level allows municipalities and individual counties to decide for themselves what to do. And so here in Harris County and Galveston County, what our law enforcement has decided to do is to treat it as a trespass situation, because we've roundly decided that businesses have that right. So how are we going to grant them that right without new laws being written? Well, we find existing laws that we can use to enforce. And there are existing laws that apply. It's section 30.05, so 30.05, you can look it up. It's all about criminal trespass. Criminal trespass is what allows businesses to say no shirt, no shoes, no service. And it does this by saying, if a business employee or representative asks you to leave, and it also applies to private individuals in a number of different situations. If you are asked to leave and you do not, at that point, that is criminal trespass. That is an arrestable offense. It is also, scarily enough, but this is Texas, all of the different subsections of 30.05 sets up when it is legal to shoot somebody for trespassing. So, so there's that. There's the case of Joe Horn. This actually happened here in Beaumont, which is not far from here. You can shoot and kill people for trespassing on your next door neighbor's property. They don't even have to be on yours. And shot them and killed them. And the law supported him on that. Now, he still had to go to civil court, and there was some wrongful death lawsuits and all of that. But in the criminal case, there was not a criminal case. So, yeah, that's Texas. But hey, we also pump our own gas here. They don't do that in Oregon. That doesn't make any sense to us. And for the life of me, if I went to Oregon, I would want to pump my own gas. And I would go around in Oregon to every gas station every time I went to go get gas. No, thank you. I don't need you to pump my gas. I can do it myself. Thank you. No, thank you. So in that regard, I can see how that situation could unfold. On the other hand, once I know that, hey, this is Oregon, you don't pump your own gas in Oregon, then I would probably just be like, cool, okay, well, one less thing I have to worry about. So it's not like I couldn't adjust and adapt to that either, So, yeah, I wouldn't be stubborn. honestly. I'm not a stubborn person. We all have our views about masks. So, yeah, that's that. Thanks for watching. I'm going to do another analysis here. Hopefully I'll get that out in another day or two. It's of a different interview. So thanks again for watching. I'll see y'all on the next video.